We're cutting across to breaking news that's coming in. Now, this is on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's briefing on the stimulus package. It's slated to take place at 4 p.m. and this is based on the Prime Minister's announcement last evening of that massive stimulus package of 20 lakh crore rupees, which is equivalent to about 10% of India's GDP. We're expecting the finer print, the details, the specifics from Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Remember, Prime Minister Modi gave the headline yesterday. He said that this is going to be a massive stimulus package, mentioning the amount of 20 lakh crores. But now the focus will be on which sectors will benefit from this, what exactly is the government's plan on reviving the economy and helping those sectors which have been hit the hardest due to the coronavirus pandemic and the subsequent lockdown. All those details are expected at 4 p.m. from Nirmala Sitharaman. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to be one briefing in which all details are jam-packed. There are going to be several briefings over the next few days, with each press conference focused perhaps on one or two sectors. And that's how the government is going to break down exactly what their strategy is on how the stimulus package is going to help the country and put us on the right track economy-wise. Nirmala Sitharaman will be addressing that press conference at 4 p.m. This is a stimulus package that in fact is the need of the hour. And while opposition parties have all in fact stayed away from really criticizing the government, knowing full well that we need this right now, this economic package, they will be eyeing every single detail of what Nirmala Sitharaman has to say. Because at this point, we'll have to see what the government's plan is, how the government plans to utilize this 20 lakh crore rupees to revive the economy and ensure we're on the right track, and also to in fact ensure that sectors who've been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic also manage to revive. Rajiv Dubey is joining us with more details on this. So Rajiv, all eyes will be on Nirmala Sitharaman's press conference at 4 p.m. today. What really do you see as the big announcements that are expected today? What we're hearing at this point is that it's not just going to be one press conference today in which all details are mentioned. There are going to be a couple of sectors that she focuses on today, and then in the coming days perhaps more briefings, more details.
Yes, Akshita, the biggest issue here is reviving the demand in the economy. Of the 4 L's that the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday: land, labor, liquidity, and law. 3 of these L's are going to be long-term measures. Liquidity is the only one that the government can look at right now. Land, labor, and law. All of these 3 measures are going to have a long-term impact on the economy for sustaining a growth in the economy. What we need right now is demand, generation in the economy, creation of demand in the economy, pushing that demand in the economy. And for that, it is very critical that the public expenditure of the government continues, and whatever that the government can do in terms of cutting taxes or providing SOPs to people or direct benefit transfer, all of those measures are what are expected to be announced, especially with reference to the support that the government will give to MSMEs. A big chunk of this is going to be the small and medium enterprises, labor, the poor and the working class, agriculturists. Those are the focus areas as far as the government is concerned, and that's where the pumping in of the government money into these areas is what is going to drive consumption. We are not going to see an uptick in our economic revival unless the consumption in the economy revives, the demand in the economy revives. So I expect that most of the measures that will be announced over a period of time, or the finance minister's conference today is only going to probably cater to certain aspects of it right now. But I think a series of announcements will happen over a period of time. But today, it seems that it will have to be more about liquidity, MSMEs, labor, working class, and the support that it can provide, the government can provide in terms of either direct benefit transfer or payroll support, or anything that they can do to provide more liquidity or credit guarantee to the medium and small enterprises, which have been very badly hit by these lockdown days. So today's measure is likely to be an immediate measure, where these will be catered to. And agriculturists, labor, working class, MSMEs is what I expect the focus will be.
The hints were all there in the Prime Minister's address last evening, Rajiv. As you pointed out, there were those 4 Ls of land, labour, liquidity and law. He also mentioned 5 pillars, of which the 5th pillar was demand, something that you touched upon as well. The Prime Minister kept speaking about making India self-reliant, and at a time when we're facing this kind of a pandemic and the entire world is, how do you see them ensuring that India is self-reliant with this kind of a package? How do you think they will ensure that this money is put in certain sectors to make us more self-reliant?
So the money that the government intends to spend will be all towards creating of what he said, economy, generating demand in the economy, infrastructure, technology. The technology pillar is in the other pillar, demography was the other focus area, and finally was the demand. So basically, the creation of infrastructure, like I said, is a very, very big component of this. This is the only public expenditure, particularly, is the only economic engine that is working in India right now. As you know, demand is down, exports are low, exports have been flat practically for all these years, and private investment is at its lowest. So infrastructure spend, as I said, public expenditure will be the big focus area from the government's point of view, and that's where I see a lot of the announcement likely to happen. When it comes to technology pillar, there's going to be a lot of technology support that the government expects, that the government may, industry may expect to be provided by the government, whether it is in terms of the way GST, for instance, is a technology initiative, and initiatives like that, including anything on the logistics front, including anything from the roads and highways front, making the movement of goods far more faster through the use of technology. Those are the ways in which the government can push technology. Then you have demographics. The whole focus on ensuring that the productive years of the demography are utilized. I think that will be the other big focus. And like I said, demand is really the key to everything else. So to me, of these 5 pillars, I think infrastructure and demand are the 2 things that will help us bring about what is called a V-shaped recovery. Otherwise, it may end up being a U-shaped recovery, which will take a lot longer. What we really require right now is generation of demand in the economy, and demand in the economy can be created by infrastructure development. Demand will also finally lead to kickstarting another engine in the economy, which is the private investment engine. Basically, right now, if the demand is too low, private investment is not happening. The moment demand starts to increase, private investment will come back. So they are all tied to each other. Public expenditure will create demand. What government does now will create demand in terms of either DBT or any other transfers or tax cuts or any of those measures. If, for instance, there's a massive GST cut or personal income tax cut, that will also have a very, very significant impact on demand. So public expenditure leading to what the government does, which will create demand in the economy itself, as well, both of these put together will create what is called private investment. Right now, private investment is not happening largely because the capacity utilization in the industry is very, very low. It's under 60%. It's about 50% right now. And that will come back the moment demand comes back. And so I think crucial to this is really demand. What I will be looking for in the announcements of the finance minister, which will give an idea of how quickly you can revive this economy, is really what measures are meant to stimulate demand in the economy, and whether the government's public expenditure program continues or is actually accelerating. Those are the 2 things which will immediately impact an economic revival. Everything else, whether it is land, labor or law-related initiatives, they will take between 3 to 5 years for them to show any impact on the economy. And so they are great support for what will happen now, but they will be able to sustain and maybe make the economy grow much faster. But what is required at this point is essentially ensuring that public expenditure, infrastructure spending of the government continues, and there is demand generation in the economy, whether it is in the form of direct benefit transfer, whether it's in the form of payroll support from the government to small and medium enterprises and other companies, whether it's in the form of tax cuts, GST cuts, across the board cuts in taxes, which will again then generate demand in the economy. And finally, that will lead to private investment and private expenditure coming back into the economy. That will ensure that at least three engines of the four are kept going. Exports, like I said, which is the fourth engine, is not really in our hands. And so we will have to leave it aside, because that depends on how the global demand is generated, and how this whole economic nationalism that is coming out of this coronavirus crisis is going to intensify. If that intensifies, exports is not something that we can help. But 67 to 70% of India's economy is domestic economy. So we have things very well within our control to be able to bring this transition into a revival in the economy, a V-shaped recovery, if we can help it.
Rajiv, two references the Prime Minister made. One is the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and second is when he said vocal for local. All of this led to, a lot of talk about whether the Prime Minister, the government is indicating at an import substitution. Do you see that as something that is definitely not going to happen?
No, it's not really about import substitution as much as ensuring that whatever we are doing is done for the sustaining and self-sustaining of our economy. Essentially, the coronavirus crisis, as he said, has told us how much reliance on a particular country, one particular country in China in this case, could impact your own economy without you, doing anything, without you being responsible for it. Essentially, what he was saying is that if, for instance, look at the pharmaceutical industry. Most of our pharmaceutical components, active pharmaceutical ingredients, actually come from China. So the very fact that we wanted to manufacture and supply to the world drugs that were required to fight the coronavirus, they were hampered to a large extent. So the government has come out with a package where there will be a drugs manufacturing park, which will ensure that domestic manufacturing happens. So, Atmanirbhar Bharat is more about self-reliance, self-sustaining. It is almost going back to the Nehruvian era, if you remember. The whole Nehruvian philosophy was about being self-reliant as soon as India got independence. So, in many ways, this is practically going back to, in some ways, to the Nehruvian era. But in the modern age, it's very important for an economy of our size, 1.3, 1.4 billion people, that we make most of the things that are required within the country. This is something that was inevitable. It had to happen today or tomorrow, because you cannot sustain an economy of our size by massive imports. You can't keep having imports of cars, two-wheelers or three-wheelers or whatever, phones, consumer electronics. For the consumption that our economy will be generating in the long term, it's not healthy, nor is it sustainable for an economy of our size to be dependent on imports.
Okay, Rajiv, my apologies for interrupting. I request you to stay on with us. Akash Jindal is joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Jindal, we saw a lot of reactions, positive reactions to the Prime Minister's address last night when he announced this massive stimulus package. Largely the consensus is it's the need of the hour. But what really do you feel is what the Finance Ministry should be focusing on with the stimulus package, the sectors?
I think the main focus should be on manufacturing, because basically right now the biggest problem is unemployment. CMIE data tells us that as of 3rd May, the unemployment is 27.1%. ILO, International Labour Organization, which is a body of UN, it tells us that 40 crore Indian workers in informal sector could be pushed deeper into poverty because of the ongoing situation. So I think main focus is expected to be on manufacturing, because manufacturing is where the main job losses has been. Agriculture is doing okay. IT and BPO, they have not been that impacted. And particularly when we talk about our labor brothers, the ones who are daily wagers, the ones who earn and eat daily, they are directly or indirectly related somewhere to manufacturing. So I think main focus is going to be MSME. because MSME has been hurt very, very badly. Again, I mean, loan pressure, NPA pressure, and non-production and breaking of assembly chains have severely impacted them. So main focus may be on manufacturing. Beyond that, I think the second focus perhaps could be on the middle class, because middle class also, their finances have been chaotic now, because in many cases salaries have not been paid. In some cases salaries have been dropped. Many people who are into consultancy or businesses, they have not been able to earn anything. So there also, what I expect is there could be relief as far as income tax is concerned. Now, the biggest relief which I expect is the expectation of my organization, akashhandal.in, is GST. Now, how GST can help us is, because if GST relief comes in, prices of many things would drop and demand and consumption would increase. India is a price-sensitive economy. The moment prices drop, people would go and buy more. And India's strength is demand and consumption. That way, we'll be able to manufacture more, give more jobs, increase the GDP, reduce deficit, and also be able to mobilize more taxes. So I think GST is something which can, GST reduction is something which can get customer back into the retail market. So that is something which I am expecting. Apart from that, what could be there? Additionally, there could be a 3-month additional loan moratorium. Of course, that could be announced by RBI or maybe by Finance Minister, because now the lockdown is getting extended. Even lockdown 4 is expected with the newer terms. So I think there could be a further increase in the loan moratorium, because borrowers, whether it's MSME, whether it's industrialists or common shopkeepers, they are facing problem. They are under a lot of trouble. So that is also something which could be announced. Apart from that, what I expect is there could be more money given to the states. There could be more money given to the states to allocate more money to companies so that they could somehow compensate people as far as salaries is concerned. See, abroad, this has been done in many cases, that companies, corporations, they have been given subventions.
Mr. Jindal, I appreciate you joining us with your expert opinion. Unfortunately, I'm having to interrupt you here because we're also cutting across live now to JP Nadda's press conference.
बल्कि यह देश को सशक्त एवं आत्मनिर्भर बनाने वाला है। कोविड की त्रासदी के वैश्विक संकट से जीवटता के साथ निर्णायक लड़ाई लड़ रहे समग्र राष्ट्र के विकास एवं देशवासियों के कल्याण के लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी इस संकल्पबद्ध कदम की जितनी भी सराहना की जाए वह कम है। आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान पैकेज के जरिए देश के विभिन्न वर्गों एवं आर्थिक व्यवस्था की कड़ियों को मजबूती दी जा सकेगी। 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए का ये पैकेज कोरोना से उत्पन्न संकट के बावजूद 2020 में देश के विकास यात्रा को एक नई गति देगा। आत्मनिर्भर भारत के संकल्प को सिद्ध करने के लिए इस पैकेज में देश के गरीबों, मजदूरों और मध्यम व लघु उद्योगों के विशेष ध्यान रखा गया है, क्योंकि यही आत्मनिर्भर भारत के हमारे संकल्प के मजबूत आधार स्तंभ है। साथ ही साथ जो हमारा मध्यम वर्ग है, जो हमारा टैक्स पेयर है, उसकी भी इसमें चिंता की जा रही है। इसलिए यह पैकेज अपने आप में एक ऐतिहासिक पैकेज है और भारत को आर्थिक दृष्टि से एक क्वांटम जंप देने के लिए यह उसका आधार बनेगा, ऐसा मैं मानता हूं। प्रधानमंत्री जी को इसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
So that was the briefing by JP Nadda, who has said that this is a step in the right direction and that this stimulus package will revive the economy in India. We'll continue getting you all the latest reactions on the Prime Minister's address, also getting you all the details that you need to know on the Finance Minister's briefing at 4 p.m. today. Stay tuned to India Today.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.